welcome to the show. Now, as political parties gear up for their primary elections, the choice of who will fly their party's ticket in the 2023 general elections rests solely in the hands of the delegates. Now, the delegates are essential in electing candidates who will then contest in the general election. With statutory delegates omitted and only the ad hoc delegates left, there is now a direct appeal to them to understand that the future of Nigeria, including their own future and that of their children, lies in their decisions as they exercise their delegate powers, whether being ad hoc or not. Now, governors are being said to be influential in determining the ad hoc delegates, but can the delegates exercise their voting powers using their own discretion to present better candidates for Nigerians? How would the leaving out of statutory delegates affect the outcome of the primaries and candidates presented to the general population? We'll have analysis. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Lanre Issa-Onilu, who is the former National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, and by Ayo Oyalowo, who is a leading political commentator and a member of the APC too. And I start with you, Issa-Onilu. Yeah. You have been a party executive before. How important is a delegate, and why do we have ad hoc delegates on one hand being elected, and then you have statutory delegates who are not elected but are supposed to be a part of the process, but unfortunately, with what's happening now, they have been left out?
Yeah, thank you for having me. You see, the basic thing is it's all about democracy. Democracy is about widening the scope, you know, so that people can make their choices. And in doing that, these layers of selection, starting from the party members, if you're a member of a political group, your party members should know you, and you're going to represent them, to be able to bring forward the best amongst them to stand for election on their behalf, who's going to implement their manifesto and ensure that they deliver on their promises to the people. So it's a very important level. That is the level of selection within the party. So when you graduate from that, then you throw your candidate into the general voting population, and then it's their option now to determine amongst the options available from the different political parties. So it's like screening. So the first layer, that is the one you have within the party, is the first set of screening. Your members are to screen to ensure they bring the best for us in the country. So it's all about democracy, the right to choose, and empowering people so that people can be in control in determining who, you know, governs them.
All right, and I'm interested in knowing how powerful delegates are. Before, we used to see the statutory delegates, you know, having an overwhelming influence above that of the ad hoc delegates. But this time around, it looks like the ad hoc delegates have become very powerful.
They are now the beautiful bride that everybody has to woo, and it's a good thing. You see, I've been having this in my mind. This is why whatever we do, let altruism be the watchword. When the National Assembly was amending the Electoral Act, rather than altruism being their watchword, they wanted to whittle down the power of the governor. You see, people have power and they want to use it to impose on others. In trying to, you see, that is where when you are trying to hurt somebody, they said when you point a finger, 4 fingers are pointing back at you. While trying to hurt the governors, they've now hurt themselves, and they didn't even discover it until after the deed has been done. When all the CSO, everybody was busy shouting all over the TV, nobody was reading. That is the problem we have in this country. Nobody reads. Everybody just talk.
They were too busy working.
Everybody was too busy making noise. Nobody was actually reading the issue. Both the CSOs that were shouting everywhere, the National Assembly that wanted to overwhelm the power, whittle down the power of the governors. Now everybody has now been played. So this is the problem, when whatever we are doing as a people is not based on altruism. It is based on personal ego, selfish interests, and all those things. Why you will not see such very important aspect of the Electoral Act? Simply because you were trying to whittle down the power of the governor, tells you clearly that when you were thinking, when you were putting this thing down, and we saw the deputy Senate President boasting that he was the one who wrote it, and those are the issues. People should always do things based on collective good. But when everything is about me, it's about what I can benefit, it's about how I'm going to oppress the other people. This is what happens. Now everybody that thought he was a thing God, he could write, I could do this, they've all been screened out by themselves, by acts that they wrote by themselves.
Okay, Issa-Onilu, let's talk about these ad hoc delegates, how they are to emerge. In your own party, how many ad hoc delegates will be elected by party members to come to the National Convention to elect a presidential aspirant, a presidential candidate? And are they subject to any influence since we don't have statutory delegates being part of the process?
Okay, let's take them apart. First and foremost, the delegates, that is the national delegates, are 3 from each local government. So we have 774 local governments in this country. So you just multiply by 3, then you have your number. That's the delegates that are coming now, different from the statutory or the so-called super delegate. Influence, whether the governor or someone else would have influence. Influence is not a negative word in politics. You drive politics with influence. So I don't see it from the negative point of view, whether the governor or someone else, somebody has got to influence somebody, whether by the power of your persuasion, presenting reasons why somebody should do something differently. Even the aspirants moving around now, they're trying to influence the delegates by presenting the options they've got for them. So influence is not a negative word in politics. It's actually an ingredient, for politics.
Yeah, now I'm asking this because if you're a presidential aspirant and you've gone around and then you're hearing that statutory delegates are being excluded and it's only the ad hoc delegates now, would you be afraid that the governors would have a huge influence as to where these ad hoc delegates will vote? Yeah,
that takes me back to what the point Ayo was making about when people make law for themselves and not for the people. You see, the governor, if you think now have influence just because we're going to have ad hoc delegates that are elected at the state level, and we kind of massive influence purportedly have by the governors. Well, I think it also behoves on an aspirant, a presidential aspirant, to reach out to the governors and convince the governors. Yeah, you see, there is no single governor anywhere in this country that will sit down. We are not talking of a shepherd, driving some sheep. These are human beings. You could today say I have 30 of them. I'm the one who put them on the list. But when you get to the ground, you're not going to follow anybody to sign on that ballot and put it in the ballot box. You're not going to be there. So even the governor is relying on some other petty, let me call them petty despots, political despots, small despots here and there, So
to help them.
To help them. So and that is the way it works. It's not something that is unitary. It's something that it is diffused. So you have many people who are influential at different level. I could be coming with my 10, there might be 10 delegates in that list that I control. And if the governor is aware of that, he will also reach out to me. So a presidential aspirant reaches out to the governor calls the petty despot and also tell them, for these reasons, because of our people in this state, this person appears to have the best program and the option for us. So I would advise we go. If he's able to convince everybody, that means that particular aspirant has the whole lot of the vote coming from that particular state. Otherwise, it will be split.
Okay, Ayo, let's talk about this number of ad hoc delegates now. He had said 3 national delegates per local government. Should add it times 3. That will give you 2,322 is what's giving me here.
So you have Southeast has 285.
Okay.
The South has 735. The Southwest have 408. The Northeast has 336. The North Central has 354. While the Northwest has the highest number of 561. So that is how it is
very powerful. All giving us 2,322. Yeah. Now, project it with the earlier 7,800 delegates.
Actually, it's not going to be much difference, really. What you have done as an aspirant in terms of your moving around still subsists. if you have been able to convince, you know, most
that's for those who went
serious aspirants have, yeah, that's what you see. I'm using the word serious aspirant, not the ones who just go on TV and make so much noise. I mean, the serious ones have gone around at least 20, 25 states to speak with the delegates and have met with them. So those ones still subsist. The only difference here is that the numbers will not be as high, and which means it's easy to actually reach out to them. Using his analogy, while I won't use the word mini despot, I will use mini influencers after the governor, if you are able to convince the governor, like he rightly put. But also remember that out of the 36 states, APC has only 22 states or thereabouts. So some states don't even have governors. So you have to reach out to leaders in all capacity. You have, if you go to some state, you have Unity Group, you have a group, all manner of groups like group. That. So you will have
all
to.
Of that.
That is why, as a presidential candidate, you should have done your homework, know the right people. And I totally agree with him. Influence in politics is not a bad thing. What I'm doing right now is trying to influence people to hear what I'm saying and believe it. So influence is actually letting people understand that, look, this person is better than this person for this and so reason, so that you can now make a decision based on whatever influence he has been passed on to you through the discussion. So it's not a bad thing. And for me, the only difference now is that you are dealing with a smaller number of delegates than the higher number, than the high number we had before. As long as you've done your job as a serious presidential candidate, I don't think there's any reason to be worried.
Okay, so 7,800 delegates was the figure that was projected initially. So if you minus 2,300 plus, like we have said earlier on, you have 5,478 delegates that are being pushed out. So it makes it easier if you have just about 2,300 delegates for you to be able to reach out here and there. But with over 5,478 delegates being pushed out, is there any fear that it will affect the projections of some of the major presidential contenders? How do you foresee a Tinubu, for example, and Oshibanjo, for example, and Amechi and Ahmed Lawan rethinking all of these statistics?
Yeah, you see, the paradigm has shifted because of that amendment that has not been signed. And the difference is this. Before, you were going to relate with the number of constituencies in a particular state. That will have determined the number of delegates, especially the statutory delegates. If you have, like Kano has how many House of Rep members, you know, that will have given them both past and present legislators who are available, you know, in Kano. Likewise in other states with, you know, high number of constituencies. But now you're relating with the number of local governments. A state with so many constituencies may not have as many local governments as a particular state that had fewer constituencies. So now, if a local government has 10, if a state has 10 local governments, that's 30 delegates. They may have more constituency than a state with 16 local governments. So it has shifted a little. So that should inform you, if you're an aspirant or you're involved in the campaign of an aspirant, on how to allocate your resources. If you were targeting a state based on the number of constituency that state has before, you're not going to now look at the number of local governments a particular state has in targeting and in allocating your resources and in deploying whatever you want to deploy.
Yeah, so and you're talking about resources. We hear that delegates are being given dollars, pounds, naira, and all of that. What do you say to that?
I have heard about that also. But it is easy for people to throw rumor, you know, around. See, I think Nigerian voters are being underrated. They are quite sophisticated nowadays. You can spend all the money you want to spend. We've seen examples over time that people are now beginning to ask questions. So we need to begin to have some respect for Nigerian voters. Thank you. You know, so I'm not one of those people who think anybody is throwing money around. I'm not saying, you see, it comes with logistics. We saw it in America, the last election. People were being, you know, given things, gifts were being delivered in addresses in people's homes from aspirants, from candidates. So freebies are not things that are unknown to politics.
Within the political process.
Yes. In some other climes, because of the advancement they have, there are some sort of regulation, and how much you can do and what you cannot do. But you don't go to the market and come back with anything without having some money. This is part of logistics. And we're Africans, at the end of the day. If you have a guest give gift to the person you've come to visit, and if the person receiving you also, your host, also give you gift. That's what we do in Africa, exchange of gift. You understand? As the Yoruba will say, that when a farmer is coming from the farm, he brings a tuber of yam to the city. So I can get a piece of bread. I can get a loaf of bread going back to the farm.
Not obscene.
Exactly.
Well, I don't agree with him. The way people talk about this, it's an insult. It's an insult to the psyche of the voters. They are not idiots. They are not puppets. They are human beings with minds. Some of them are like me. If I had worked to be an ad hoc, I would have been one of them. So somebody wouldn't look at me and say I don't have sense and I don't know what to do. So a delegate can be convinced based on other parameters, not just money.
Yeah, but when like you keep hearing some of the politicians saying talking is not enough, well, I'll ask you to hold on while we go on this short break. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion. You're still watching the Arise interview. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the conversations. I'm Sumner Sambo, and we're still discussing the issues of ad hoc delegates and the exclusion of statutory delegates and how this may affect the projections of presidential aspirants and then even the political parties. My guests are still Lanre Issa-Onilu, who is a former National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, and Ayo Oyalowo, who is a leading political commentator, and he happens to be a member of the APC too. Ayo, we've seen the PDP saying that it will comply with the directives of the Electoral Act as it is, saying that they will have 3 delegates per local government and then 1 national delegate. The APC is here to start its own primaries, but we've seen the shifting of or the indefinite postponement of the screening, presidential screening of the presidential aspirants, which was supposed to hold today. Is the APC affected by all of this?
No,
why does it look like
I'm trying to correct you. The presidential screening starts tomorrow. A new information has been made available. It's actually not an issue. It's just a day issue. And from what we understood, they were having a meeting today at the national headquarters. That was why they had to shift by a day. So it's not an issue.
So the APC is not troubled by all of this?
No, we will comply because that is the law. Anything outside the law will become null and void. We can't do anything outside it. And clearly you can't change the goalpost in the middle of the game. The primaries have begun in earnest. The PDP have started their own using the same electoral law. We cannot.
Yeah, and some people are wondering if President Buhari comes to sign that law,
he can't
what will
change
happen
anything
to the process since candidates are already amended?
No, you can't change it in the middle. I don't think he should sign anymore now. It's too late. If he had signed by weekend, you could say it's fine, but he didn't sign, so it's late now. So everybody have to comply by this current law. It's as simple as that.
Okay, and I want to ask you, how prepared do you think your party, the APC, is as you move into these primaries to present very good candidates to Nigerians that will help sell your party better and sell the programs to the populace? Yeah,
well, that is obvious, starting from the number of people who turn up for the form. That's how you treat a beautiful bride.
So APC is the beautiful bride.
A lot of suitors will come in. So when people were reading negative meanings to many people coming out, if APC had not done well in the last 7 years, if it has not made members proud in several areas, there are areas, of course, that we can say there are things to be done. If that has not happened, many people will not be so proud to come out to say, give me the baton from where we are. I want to continue. So what has happened is we are ready. We are ever ready. See, the campaign 2023 election is going to be about what we have done. This should be a referendum. See,
are you saying the next president of Nigeria from the APC?
Yeah. Whether it is?
Yes.
No. We are just fulfilling all righteousness. See, we are supposed to have an opposition. See, when I was the publicity secretary, my greatest concern was knowing that we didn't have a real opposition party. And it's unfortunate, till date, we don't have. PDP has failed to live up to expectation as an opposition party. And that's very unfortunate for democracy. It should have been an advantage to APC. But also we know we have a nascent democracy. We all want stability. We want it to grow. And so we need a robust, vibrant opposition, yes, which PDP has not been able to provide.
Okay, we'll get PDP to answer you some other day as we continue this conversation. Let me ask you the same question I asked him. Have you seen the next president of Nigeria coming out of the APC?
I don't see it coming from anywhere.
And who do you think that person is, if you have one in mind?
If you think if you don't mind me saying it, there's only one candidate in this election. We have a lot of aspirants, but we have one candidate. Is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I proudly say that. He's the next president of Nigeria.
You're so sure that this...
Very, very sure. Extremely
over 2,322
the delegates are thinking exactly the way I'm thinking.
Vote for your candidate.
The delegates are thinking the way I'm thinking. No, he's not an aspirant. He's the candidate. Others are aspirants.
Oh, you have already given it
because he's an Asiwaju, he leads, others just follows.
Okay, very interesting.
Very.
Now, what makes this exciting is that the APC has some very good contenders that have been going around the country. We've seen an Amechi going around and saying, look, I've done very well for the APC-led federal government. You need to support me. We've seen a Fayame going around. We've seen Ahmad Lawan, who just joined the fray, and then Professor Yemi Oshibanjo saying that, look, I want to continue with the good policies of Mr. President. In all of this, aren't you also concerned by the thinking of many Nigerians that the APC hasn't done so much for the country and that the PDP may stand a better chance of coming back to power?
But you just mentioned some names now. Let's take away the fact that we have the best candidate in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. All the names you have mentioned, from Professor Yemi Oshibanjo to former governor and now current, I mean, it's no longer a minister, I think he's resigned now, that's Rotimi Amechi. We have excellent hands that could run this country from the APC. APC possess some of the best brains in Nigeria. However, like he said, yes, there are areas of concerns that we need to do better. But many people pretend to make Nigeria look like we're an island. You talk about economy. Maybe if you have not been following the news, then you will say, oh, Nigeria, things are hard. But you look everywhere in the world today. Inflation is all over the world. It's not a Nigerian problem. But what thing I keep telling people is that, have we managed it well? Yes. Can we do better? Yes. But have we done well? We have. And I will give you an example. Before President Buhari became president of Nigeria, we were 100% importing everything we eat. We had a COVID pandemic that shut down the world for about 6 months. Now put yourself in that shoes. If the man has not seen the future and say, come, let's begin to produce our own food. Imagine we needed to import food in those 6 months. Do you think Nigerians will have survived that shutdown? These are things people are not looking at. Yes, there are challenges. I would never sit here and deny that there are no challenges. But I will ask you, have we managed them well? Yes. Can we do better? We can always do better. There are always room for improvement. But in terms of the resources available, we have done extremely well. When this man came in, fuel price was as low as $25 per barrel. There was completely no savings anywhere. 27 states could not pay salaries. So many parastatals have been have been cleared off, and they were not paid their salary from the former Nigerian Airways to the NITEL staff to the former NEPA staff. But Buhari has come in, he has paid all. People pretend he has done nothing simply because we just want to play politics. Okay. We have a huge infrastructural deficit when this government came in. As I speak today, most areas in Nigeria are like a work in progress. So clearly there are challenges, but honestly, this government has done extremely well.
Okay, and Issa-Onilu, there are fears among your party members that there may be some imposition in the next coming primaries that will be held, despite President Buhari's injunction party members that imposition should not be heard of after the last national convention where the new party executives emerged. Now, the fears are coming on the heels of plans to have a consensus presidential candidate. Do you think that APC will create a conducive environment for all the presidential aspirants that have been moving around the country? Should the party members be afraid, or you think internal democracy will prevail?
haven't we learned enough lessons in APC? Or you think we are bad students? We are not. We've had experiences where infractions have led to us having a whole state that we have won 100% taken away from us, and from 100% to 0. It was a huge shock. We've had some other ones. So we've learned lessons. And you could see the trajectory. APC is a party that take from 1 step to 2 to 3, implementing policies that suggest we are learning and we're improving. I can assure you, the president has always been a foremost proponent of rule of law at the party level, at the cabinet, in everything it does. And as a former member of the NWC of APC, I knew the instruction given by the president had always been follow your laws.
Yeah. Yeah, but we hear that some party leaders would like to provide for a consensus.
No, I want to come to that. Yeah, I want to come to that. You see, there's this issue that people are mixing up issues. No, consensus is not illegal, and people have to know the difference between consensus and the so-called anointing and imposition. Yeah. They are not the same. While consensus is legal, anointing is legal.
It's acceptable.
Imposition is illegal. You will be infringing on the Electoral Act, and you're going to rub your nose on the sound. You're getting it. If you say anointing, I'm sitting down here, I have a candidate I have anointed, using the word anointing. That's the person I'm supporting. So anointing is synonym for supporting. So anybody is free to support anybody. If the president decides tomorrow to say, I'm supporting this person, that's anointing. It's not down to the delegate or for the president to convince the delegate or for any other person.
Yeah, so there should be a contest. You are out for contest.
Will be contest.
Yeah, because we are hearing that someone
please.
like Asiwaju Bola Tinubu that's insisting that there should be a contest.
That is, a
contest.
The narrative, whatever you see going on now, you could expect that when you're in political contest. People throw all sorts of narratives. But please, let's learn to wait for the official position on every issue. Okay. I check people when they say, I have read something. I say, from which media? Nigeria must learn to know mainstream media from the media,
from the blogs
or whatever. So now, if you have not seen it from the official sources, why do you bother yourself about it? We just love rumor. We just
remember during the national convention there were fears being expressed that there will be consensus candidate and all of that. The party kept denying, but eventually we saw an imposition, if you may call it that way, where someone came from nowhere without policies and all of that, and is the national chairman of the party today. Ayo, you wanted to contest for a seat in the APC. I'm surprised that you're no longer contesting. Are you a victim of imposition?
I won't call it imposition. The party leaders in my constituency decided that somebody's son, because the father has died, they don't want to. All manner of excuses were thrown here and there. And I went along with them. So I didn't see it as an issue. I only saw it for me as an opportunity to get to know my roots better. And today, before I went to the contest, I was largely like they call us in quote, Abuja politician. But today, if you mention my name in all our party, we have 3 local government in my constituency. If you mention my name there today, my posters are still there. And then
I've sat with them.
I told the party line because clearly I understand what the party is trying to do. The party wants a situation where we have one person and we all support and we don't waste unnecessary resources. Sometimes primaries could become acrimonious, and we saw what was going on. We had 9 of us running for the same seat. So I followed the idea, but we shouldn't think that will now happen in the primaries here, because clearly, like he says, and I totally agree with him, the president could come out and say he likes this person. It's not a problem. But you remember that the Electoral Act clearly states that for a consensus to happen, every aspirant must write. If there is no written note by at least one, even only one, even if there are 100 aspirants and all of them agree, if one did not write, there must be a contest. I hope you understand that. So clearly, there will be no imposition on this one.
Okay.
This one, there is a... You see, for the national convention of the party, it is the law of the party. But for the convention to produce the presidential candidate, it is not the law of the party alone. You have to toe the Electoral Act too. So, and the Electoral Act clearly spelled the rules of the game. Right. So we can't beat that rule.
We're just short of time right now, but I would like to just ask you this very quickly. Do you foresee a runoff because of the good presidential contenders and high turnout of these presidential contenders, major contenders in the APC? Do you foresee a runoff at the presidential primaries of the party?
No,
yes
I see clearly a runaway. I see one of the aspirants running away with victory.
Okay, huge victory or just a minor
That's
victory?
why he's running away with it.
Okay, how about you?
I'm totally with him. One person. Like I told you, we have a lot of aspirants, but we have one candidate.
Okay, well, we can only wish APC well as you head towards your national convention, special national convention on 29 and 30th to elect the new
the next coming president, the incoming president.
Well, if you like, you put it that way, of the All Progressives Congress. Thank you so much, Lanre Issa-Onilu, who's a former spokesman of the All Progressives Congress. And then, of course, Ayo Oyalowo is a regular here and a leading member of the All Progressives Congress too. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.